Hello, my friends. Thank you so much for watching this stream. Operator Starsky here with just several updates from Ukraine, and not only Ukraine. First of all, Russia keeps terrorizing Ukraine despite all the bullshit that was said about the ceasefire. We'll talk about it a bit later. Um, Overnight, there was a massive drone attack on Kyiv. Specifically, approximately 150 drones were involved. Russia keeping the ceasefire. And unfortunately, there were reports of different fires all over the city. Unfortunately, we have information that a family died. We know that Nicole and her father, Alexander, they died during the attack. But later we learned that Nicole's mother also died after 10 hours of fighting for her life in hospital. Um, in the meantime, the U.S. administration keep playing friendship with Russia, with the terrorist Russian regime, and thanks to President Donald Trump and his faithful servants Witkoff and Waltz, Putin unlocked new achievement. He turned from an internationally wanted war criminal and terrorist to a negotiating party, which is a great achievement for Putin, something that he expected and wanted for several years already. So recently, in his statement, Witkoff is Trump's representative who negotiates with Putin, with Russian terrorists. Witkoff said that some of the biggest and most important issue that must be discussed with the Russian terrorists is the issue of 4 Ukrainian regions where people voted on referendums to become parts of Russia. And he was talking about Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, Kherson. And according to Witkoff, majority of those people voted to become part of Russia. How exactly majority of people in Zaporizhia, for example, voted if Zaporizhia itself is not controlled by Russian terrorists? That is a question, but it's just, another reminder that Witkoff and Trump administration in general, they live in Narnia. They live in like parallel reality where everything is possible. They have absolutely no idea of what's going on in Ukraine. Witkoff apparently, again, has never been to Ukraine in his whole life, just like the whole Trump administration. They don't understand the situation, which means two things. It's either they are completely dumb and they don't understand what happens, or they deliberately spread Russian narratives, because we didn't hear any other narratives coming from the Trump administration whatsoever. Witkoff told this dramatic story, probably saw that dramatic story about Russians shooting down their own drones. It's when Putin and Trump had a call and this massive drone attack was taking place on Ukraine. And when Putin published an official statement on the website of the Foreign Ministry of Russia that he gave an order to stop striking Ukrainian civilian infrastructure, which is so cool. He basically admitted that they were doing this, right? And according to Witkoff, he told this absolutely dramatic story that he literally saw with his own eyes Russians literally shooting down 7 of their drones, 7 of approximately 170 that were coming to Ukraine. So he also stated recently that he doesn't consider Putin a bad guy because the war always involves more than one man. Basically, it's another step towards claiming that Ukraine is also to blame for this war, that Ukraine basically started it. We can see the shift of this narrative that Russia invaded. Soon, whole American administration will be denying that Russia invaded. Soon they will be speaking about Ukraine as being the invader of Russia, that Ukraine invaded Russia, bad Ukraine, the massacre of Ukrainian civilians in Bucha was justified, and also it never happened, soon we will see that, I guarantee, okay? Also, Witkov told this funny story about Putin going to church when Trump was shot, and Putin went to church to pray for his good old friend Trump, a person he respects, his good friend, this is so cheesy. So I'm sitting here, I feel like, my head is inside of a cheddar cheese right now. Putin is not a bad guy, really. Putin, who invaded Ukraine, who killed his opposition, who killed his independent media in the country, where you have absolutely no freedom of speech, where Putin has right to rule indefinitely. From the democratic standpoint, can a person rule a country indefinitely? That is not something that I would consider a democracy. But maybe I'm wrong. For some reason, Trump administration has this huge respect to the Russian constitution that was changed by Putin to give him right to rule indefinitely, and at the same time, they absolutely despise Ukrainian constitution of 2015, which says that any elections in Ukraine during the war cannot be made. You cannot have elections in Ukraine during war because it will destabilize the country. So also Witkov said that he doesn't consider Putin a threat to the European Union. Apparently, cutting the undersea communication cables in Baltics, which happened not once and not twice, but like a lot. Apparently, it's like not a big threat, as well as all the incendiary charges that were found in different airports and all the sabotage acts that were conducted across the Europe. Well, apparently not a big threat. I'm not even mentioning, poisoning a person with combat chemicals in the UK, right? Why does the Trump administration protect Russia's image so bad? Are they doing it because they are so dumb and unqualified and have absolutely no connection to the reality, or they're doing it because Russia commands them to? It's a different question. I don't know. I can only see what they do. And it's not about Trump playing 6D chess. No, I doubt that he can even do that anyways. Then we have this amazing person, Mike Waltz, who basically said, wrong microphone connected. What's wrong with the microphone? Guys, can you hear me well? Please let me know. Please let me know in the chat, because this microphone sometimes gives me creeps, actually. Gives me creeps, that's the word. Let me wait just a second until I see your replies. Okay, plus plus. Okay, guys. So Mike Waltz, in his recent interview, again, I think that you saw it. He said that there is a huge progress happening right now in terms of the peace talks. The ceasefire, everything's completely fine. Putin agreed to stop striking Ukrainian infrastructure. And according to Mike Waltz, who doesn't live in Ukraine, who I believe, again, never visited Ukraine, especially since the full-scale Russian invasion started, according to him, everything's fine. And according to him, this family didn't die because of Putin, right? This family is okay. Just to remind the Trump administration, Trump, Waltz, Witkoff, and other individuals. Over the past week, my friends, over the past week, Russia hit Ukraine with 1,580 guided bombs, 1,100 strike drones, and 15 missiles. That is literally over the past 7 days. The question is, do we even have a ceasefire yet? And how effective are those negotiators? Because again, according to Trump, according to Witkoff, the negotiation process is amazing. It's so effective. It's absolutely successful. You tell me, because looking at those numbers, it seems that Russian strikes are successful, not the negotiation process. Now I wanted to, actually, I will probably dedicate a separate stream to this because this is an incredibly terrifying trend in Ukraine, my friends. So recently, Russians started utilizing the ISIS-like tactics of terror. So FSB utilizes the tactics when they basically use a person to deliver an explosive charge, a person that they recruited through messengers online, to deliver an explosive charge to the target and destroy the target and eliminate the carrier at the same time. So today in Odessa, there was an explosion. A woman walked into a police department carrying a plastic bag. The bag exploded, killing woman and injuring several policemen. And apparently the explosive device was also carried in this plastic bag. That is according to the initial investigation, right? So it's not the first case, unfortunately, because I believe 1 month ago there were 2 Ukrainian teenagers. One of them was 15 and another one was 17. So they were also recruited by Russians, and Russians explained how to make a bomb or receive a bomb, receive different components, and deliver this bomb to their target. So when they did it, the explosive went off, and both teenagers were also eliminated. So there were similar cases to this one. And it's not the craziest case, my friends. The craziest case literally happened yesterday, I believe, or literally 2 days ago. So Security Service of Ukraine detained a 14-year-old girl that planted an explosive under a car that belonged to law enforcement. And what makes this case crazy? So first of all, you can see that FSB, just like ISIS, they recruit teenagers, they recruit basically children and use them as suicide bombers. But this case is absolutely crazy. So there was a girl. Russian FSB hacked her phone and found nude photos. And then, using those photos, they started blackmailing the girl and they forced her to create a bomb and plant it under a car. In normal countries, secret services are catching sexual abusers, right? In Russia, the secret services are sexual abusers themselves. How crazy is this? So they forced the girl to plant the bomb. She planted the bomb, but this explosive device was discovered, and she got arrested. And of course, for committing and not committing, but preparing the terrorist act, she will probably receive 10 years behind bars. And I have some knowledge, right, how the FSB works, because they can recruit people easily, not just through compromising information like the one that was found on her phone and things like that, but literally using all kinds of easiest tools. I go like, John, listen, I have to drop this envelope in the mailbox really fast, okay? But I don't have time. Can you do that for me, please? Just drop an envelope in the mailbox, okay? And you do that. And next day I said, thank you so much, John. You just sent an anthrax to like British embassy. And if you don't want the FBI or like MI6 to know about it, you will do whatever I tell you. But if you go there and tell them this information, you will spend 3 years in prison. 3 years of your life in prison, that's a lot. I'm bullshitting you, because I know that you probably may not spend those years in prison, but you don't know that. And they know how to pull strings using both intimidation and encouragement and things like that. So currently Russian FSB is using kids as suicide bombers, like ISIS, right, to deliver explosives to the targets and eliminate both the target and Ukrainian children. And sometimes they hack their phones and steal their nudes. That is completely crazy. That is the bomb that the girl made. It was later destroyed by Ukrainian EOD team. And to me, this story is completely like, I knew that Russians were doing that. I knew that Russians were recruiting kids. They did it since like 2015 to conduct different espionage acts, surveillance, and things like that. Sometimes they also recruited people to commit terrorist attacks, but this story is completely insane. Completely. If there is a chance that someone hacked your phone or did anything else, somebody is trying to either blackmail you, push you to do something illegal, things like that, always go and report the law enforcement. Always. No matter what. No matter what kind of information they have on you, it's always better to go and report this to the law enforcement, to police, or to counter-espionage service, whatever. Report this to the authorities. Otherwise, a lot of people will be hurt. That is extremely important to remember. So today in Riyadh, there's negotiations, and Ukraine's ceasefire is being discussed. Currently, Ukrainian team finished negotiating with the United States delegation. Basically, again, we should remember one thing. Ceasefire, in my opinion, ceasefire will not happen. Ceasefire will not be followed, right, by Russians, because we already had that for years. We had that since 2014. Russians never kept their word, right? All the agreements they made, they were violated. All of them. Minsk agreements, agreements. Oh my God, when Ukrainian troops were surrounded in Ilovaisk 2014, and Russians promised green corridor and then literally shot the withdrawing troops, shot them at point blank. They don't keep their word. And we know that. After talking with Trump on a telephone, Putin made a statement. You can still find this statement on the website of Russian Foreign Ministry, saying that Putin ordered his troops already to stop striking Ukrainian infrastructure. Unfortunately, it still keeps happening. Unfortunately, we are still losing civilians to the Russian attacks. At the same time, again, Trump is so happy about it. In his every interview, he keeps claiming that the negotiations with Russians are so successful. We're making such a progress. Ukraine is being hit more and more. Like, I think that probably Trump celebrates every single. I'm not being dramatic. I'm saying, like, as it is. Like, maybe when Ukrainians die, it makes Trump happy, because otherwise, I don't know. Ukraine actually is a big problem for Trump right now. And he sees that he's like failing with the negotiations. That's why he keeps bullshitting people that everything is absolutely fine. Ukrainians have not seen a single Russian drone for already a week. Today, Ukrainian delegation was basically convincing Americans to talk to Russians and ask Russians to accept the unconditional ceasefire. What is an unconditional ceasefire? It means that no matter what happens, we're stopping, any military operations in the air, in the sea. We stop striking civilian infrastructure, energy infrastructure. Let's just do that, right? Without conditions of like dancing naked on the street, without conditions of giving up half Ukrainian territory, without things like that. Let's just do it. And we can see that Russians already have 1 million requests, 1 million conditions for an unconditional ceasefire. That is why it will never happen, in my personal opinion. Ukraine did its part. Ukraine offered 30 days of ceasefire, not striking the energy infrastructure. We see that it doesn't work. One thing that the US team mentioned today was that they will most probably talk with Russians. That is like a condition offered by the American team. They will talk to Russians about releasing 20,000 Ukrainian children that were kidnapped and deported by Russian terrorists to the territory of Russia. They will talk with them about this. So, will Russians agree to deliver those kids back to Ukraine? I don't see this possible. It would be good for them, actually, because Trump, my God, Putin, Trump. Putin is being wanted by the International Crime Court for this very reason, that he kidnapped kids, that he ordered to deport Ukrainian kids from Ukrainian territory to Russia, which is violation of international law, Geneva Convention, everything. So will he agree? I don't think so. Will it be good for Putin? Yes, of course. But I don't see this happening, because we know Russians. They may agree to like return like a couple hundred Ukrainian kids, but that's all. What else do we know about those kids? We know that they're being sent either to Crimea, there's a military camp where they're being indoctrinated and trained as future Russian invaders, or they're sent to other camps for kids in Russia, like, for example, the one in Volgograd. There is a huge military camp also where Ukrainian kids, also Russian kids, they're being indoctrinated. They learn how to operate weapons, they learn tactics, they learn how to clear the trenches, and basically they're prepared to become future Russian invaders. Having the set of those skills when you're like 15, you can imagine that by the time you're 18, you most probably you won't see any other option than just to join a the Russian armed forces. And at the same time, Ukrainian main intelligence directorate today reported that Russians increased the payment for signing contract in the Russian army. What does it mean? It means supposedly that Russians face problems with recruiting new cannon fodder. Why does it happen? Is because a lot of Russian citizens, they already saw those numerous videos that is broadly available online of Russians becoming good, glorious Russian meat assaults and things like that. And apparently they understand that their life costs a bit more than that. This is just my assumption. So they will be increasing the salaries exponentially, and it's actually a good idea because, generally speaking, not a lot of Russian recruits live up to their second salary anyways. All right. Okay, we have several more updates. First of all, you know Janine. Janine is our mercenary moderator, and she volunteered in Ukraine. She arrived to Ukraine, I believe, in 2023. 2023, and she went to Zaporizhia. She worked with the Magic Kitchen, magic food for Ukrainian soldiers. They were preparing food for Ukrainian armed forces there in the area. And she returned to South Africa. And unfortunately, 1 week ago, I only learned about it 3 days ago myself. So 1 week ago, she was hit by a car. And generally, from what I know, when she returned, like, it was actually a bit hard for her because of PTSD. She survived all those strikes. At one time, their kitchen was also hit by a drone, as far as I know, as far as I remember. And she went out to walk or to jog, and she was hit by a car. It was hit and run. The dude ditched his car a bit further, and the car was unregistered. So police is still looking for the suspect. But unfortunately, she was hit really bad. So she suffered a lot of traumas. She suffered multiple fractures, and she went out of coma just a couple of days ago. Her mother is still is there with her. She borrowed some money from her relatives, so I said that we can do some kind of fundraising for her and her mother through third persons. She said that it's not necessarily because she has some funds that she borrowed, but I believe that it's a good idea. And Annette, by the way, thank you so much for this idea. So to literally help them with anything we can, because soon she will leave the hospital, and the rehabilitation, the recovery process will take a lot of time. She has some very bad injury, like around her knees and things like that. I'm talking about fractures. So Recovery will take a lot of time. On the other hand, Janine is a fighter. She has a good progress. So Ali, there in the chat, she's throwing the links to Janine's PayPal and Coffee. If you can help, guys, I will appreciate it big time. Thank you so much. Another update that I would like to discuss is soon on the webpage of Propaganda Study Institute, we will publish an Orcopedia. So we decided to collect a library and process a library of Russian disinformation and myths about Ukraine, not only about Ukraine, but generally this library, like mostly is dedicated to Ukraine. And we are processing hundreds of Russian fakes. So what you will see there when it's available, I believe that it will be available online very soon. You will see there a library with fast search, with tags, and if you ever wanted to have a place that contains all of the Russian fakes and explanations why they're fakes, you will find it there on our page. With a fast search, you will be able to easily find whatever you like, whatever bullshit about genetically modified pigeons and geese and locust and crucified boy panty wearing in Kramatorsk and things like that. You will find all that in that library. It will be extremely useful for you if you're looking for this sort of information, my friends, and it will be frequently updated, probably every day. We already collected, I believe, 300 different fakes, and you will also find not only the short information debunking the fakes, but you will also find links, you will find the sources, so you will be able to refer to those sources. And another important update is that Yemelyan, bro, Yemelyan doesn't reply my calls, unfortunately. Another big update. First, I would probably take coffee. Another important update, my friends. So we decided with people you probably know well, because I'm sure that you're subscribed to those people. We had a small concilium and we decided to create a platform for content creators. And this is something huge and something extremely important. So the problem is Russian propagandists, they already have their ecosystem, they have like their own community that thrives on disinformation, on fakes, and they share those fakes as much as they can. The big problem is that community started to forget what the ethics are, what the information is. They, instead of discussing facts, they discuss whether they're facts or not, you know. So also, most of us are extremely prof deformated. I'm not sure how to translate it, but we think in terms of fighting Russian disinformation and propaganda. But at the same time, we have massive resources to help content creators to establish their platforms. If you remember, several days ago, I posted the poll on in my community posts whether you see yourself as a content creator or not. And to my surprise, as much as a quarter of all the respondents said that, yeah, they do. And that means a lot. So what we have a resource, we have knowledge and experience to share with people who want to become content creators. And it's not necessarily content creators who would, dedicate their channel to fight disinformation, fight Russian propaganda, debunk Russian myths and things like that, or call for supporting Ukraine. But generally speaking, people who want to create. If you want to make a channel dedicated to flying simulators, or you want to make a channel dedicated to traveling or anything else, book review, makeup, whatever you like, we can help you do that because we have resources and experience, and we can do this for you for free. So the announcement is we decided to launch a school that we will call Freedom Forge, and it will be free, it will be online, it will involve a lot of people you know well: Anna from Ukraine, Artur Ray, Philip Itner. It will involve journalists, it will involve successful bloggers with big audiences who will share their experience with you. It will involve storytellers. Journalists are perfect storytellers because they know how it works. They know how to make a story, make it interesting, make it intriguing, and make big audiences listen to the story. And also, it will involve several other people that are closely acquainted with technical side of blogging, and we're not only talking about YouTube but also TikTok and other platforms. So they will explain how to set up your sound, how to set up your light, and things like that. A lot of things that actually I need to have done, made on my channel. So that's the big update. Again, I believe that within a week we will launch this platform. We will launch the application form for all the participants. Doesn't matter if you're from Australia or United States or Europe or India or whatever. You will be able to attend those courses online, live, and also because we'll have a lot of speakers, but also you will be able to see those courses in record. That is, I believe, extremely cool. Dear people, can you all hit the like button? Yes, please do this. Please do this. So not purely about Ukraine. No, absolutely not. If you feel like having your own channel, if you feel like creating the content that you like, you will do that because it's about your voice and your freedom. Okay, you will be free to create whatever you like, but we will give you the knowledge base to make it possible, to help you, to help you grow public and things like that. Why it's also important. Oh, good morning from Indonesia. Hello, hello. Is it? It's early morning in Indonesia, I believe. So why it's also important? It's important because you will also, if you monetize your channel, you will also be able to learn some money that probably are not big, but they will help you to pay for your bills, for example. Depending on like the popularity of your platform, you can earn from, I don't know, $700 to $3,000. That depends on the views of your platform. If you have a video that makes 100,000 views, that is easily like $200 per video. So if you can make it possible, you can also motivate yourself with an income, which in my opinion is great. And if you're using platforms like YouTube or TikTok, you can monetize your creativity, and I think that it's a perfect thing. Absolutely for free. That just depends on your fantasy and your skills, and we are going to help you make it possible. Snow Chains, Simon here in the chat. Hello, buddy. Today we talked with Simon about, you know what? I hope that I can talk about it a bit. About countering drones using the piston airplanes. And that is a crazy idea because the crazily cool idea, because I remember 2017 probably, there was a proposal coming from our government to buy piston fighters, not jet fighters, but piston fighters. And people, like society in Ukraine, divided like always, because we, when we don't have like one big enemy, we tend to search an enemy among ourselves, I believe, like any other nation. So we started fighting because some people were saying that, oh my god, cool, let's buy a lot of those airplanes. Other people went like, the hell are you talking about, piston airplanes, really? Piston fighters, piston attack aircraft, I believe, because the coolest thing about piston aircraft is that they can fly low and slow. And this is cool because they're very good for attacking ground targets, tanks, troops, and things like that, artillery units. So I think if we agreed back then, 2017, 2018 maybe, if we agreed back then to buy a bunch of those airplanes, we would have enormous advantage over Russian Shaheds now, because Shaheds fly low and slow. Jet fighters are good, but jet fighters cannot fly low and slow. And if you saw my video on UATV, you probably understand what I'm talking about. So no more piston aircraft, they have turboprops. Turboprops are good. The difference between turboprops and piston aircraft is that piston aircraft have engines that have a reserve of approximately 2,000 hours, and overhaul of an engine, of a piston engine, can cost you between $20,000 and $50,000 per engine. If you have a twin aircraft, that is $20,000 to $50,000 per engine. So turboprop has extremely longer lifetime, right? I don't even remember the numbers, but like they're huge, like 3,000 hours. But at the same time, one turboprop, like one engine, one jet engine, because turboprops use jet engines, one engine literally costs like an airplane itself, and its overhaul is much more costly. Maybe it's more efficient to have piston airplanes that are still reliable, of course, turboprops are more reliable, and especially in cold weather and things like that. But maybe it's better to have like airplanes with cheaper engines that can fly pretty well at the altitudes that are like available in Ukraine. Maybe that would be great. A10 is never gonna be in UA. Yeah, but if you have something like, I don't know, like Cessna Skyhawk with a bunch of automatic cannons and a bunch of bombs, that would be great. You don't even need to have like this pylon, to attach bombs. You can literally open your window in flight and just like, drop the bomb and do your job, I think. But the idea itself is so cool, because a lot of people underestimate piston aircraft. They go like, hey, come on, like, why do you even fly that stuff? Piston aircraft are cool, guys. It's like Boeings are sexy, but piston aircraft are so cool. What else I wanted to talk about? I think I covered all the topics. We can talk about food now. What's up? I can't feed any sarcasm today because oh my god, drive wise, brother. Drive wise. Don't get distracted. The only combat aircraft with propellers are Super Tucano and the Pilatus. They have turboprops. Super Tucano, I think that was the one. I think that was the one. Yeah. Yeah, so probably they were talking about the turboprops. Wasn't a big expert in aviation back then, so I may mix stuff up. Turboprops for fewer moving parts, more reliable. Yeah, that's the thing. And generally, jet fuel is less expensive and better for the environment because the low lead aviation fuel, the avgas, it's there was a time when cars used low lead fuel, and eventually humanity had to ban it because it's so bad. How do you compare Trump's level of authoritarianism to Putin's? Let's see when Trump starts shutting down independent media, and then I will tell you. Was the Super Tucano used in the war between Ecuador and Peru? I don't know. Oh my God. Like, there are wars that I have never heard anything about. Seriously. Jet fuel is high quality diesel. Yeah. Kerosene. I had a teacher. I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure if you had those lessons in your schools, but in Ukraine we had like labor lessons. What it means is that basically, teacher brings kids to this workshop, and we make like houses for birds, uh, chairs for school, and things like that. Um, and he told us that one time he wanted to drink vodka in the morning after, like, a hard party night, and instead of vodka there was like this glass of kerosene on a table, and he said that he drank the kerosene, he survived, and the side effect of this was that he didn't have like blocked nose after that anymore in his life. I think he didn't have children as well, but anyways, it was kind of cool. Defunded Radio Europe already, yeah. What about the Texan 2? Texan, I believe that it's a trainer aircraft. I'm not sure if they were ever used or meant to be used in combat, but correct me if I'm wrong, because I know more about general aviation aircraft rather than like fighter jets and things like that. But speaking of radio, uh, speaking of Voice of America and Radio Free Europe and Radio Liberty, it's a big strike on the independent media, even though they were mastodons, even though they didn't. I would say did not follow the time. But they were still independent media and they were still good. I really, really hope that they will find new financing in Europe. Could the events in Turkey have an impact on Ukraine? I think it's possible. It depends on how the situation will develop, because currently there are protests taking place against Erdogan because he arrested his rival, who was also a mayor of Istanbul. That is, again, extremely crazy. But I remember there were already several protests like that. We will see. Erdogan has ties to KGB. That might explain some of his actions, of course. Ukraine must offer to Trump the possibility to all the rare minerals into the lands that Putin controls. I will tell you this. Trump can easily talk to Putin about excavating those resources. And unfortunately, I think that this is exactly what we will see very, very soon. like American companies working on the Russia-occupied territories easily, because Russia is not the enemy of the US anymore, according to Trump. They are now partners. Trump considers Putin the internationally wanted war criminal who killed a lot of oppositionists. He considers him a partner and good friend. They even pray for each other. A sub with camel could take out an F-16. If it's parked on the ground, I mean the F-16, yeah, then camel can take it out, definitely. I saw it happening in the Microsoft Flight Simulator. Putin is playing Trump like a one-string banjo. Seems to me that this is the case. Some evidence amount of minerals is way overstated, was a Soviet geologist. I don't know. Europe will step up to save radio liberty. That would be great. That would be absolutely great. I've heard that there is already several possibilities for radio liberty. Maybe it will work from like around Eastern Europe, maybe in the future. But it's a good idea actually to save and probably to improve, to reform it a bit, you know, to help it fight Russian disinformation more efficiently. That would be great. Erdogan makes the joke. Have you ever been to a Turkish prison? Oh my god. Erdogan is such a joker. Trump is narcissist. That's a fact. That's a fact, 100%. I would be feeling so disgusted to elect such a person, actually. Like that's my own opinion, but again, that this is my own channel. I would be extremely disgusted to have such a person as my president. My personal opinion. Because human qualities always matter, you know. MAGA is a Nigerian word for soccer. Really? Oh my god. I didn't know that. Anyway, Ukraine with European backing could give the US the middle finger and step away from these sham negotiations. Roger, I believe that these negotiations have one purpose, is to show that Ukraine has peaceful intentions, that even despite the fact that Russians invaded our country illegally, we still want the ceasefire, because it's a proper thing to stop the killing, right, as Trump says. And we already showed that we are ready. We already offered the 30-day ceasefire, and Putin already violated his own words twice since we offered it. So this is obvious that at some point, and I think it will happen within the next 5 years, Ukraine as well as our other European countries, specifically NATO allies of the US, they will become more independent, possibly completely independent from the US. But at this point, a lot of things will be reformed, and it's a good thing that they are being reformed within European countries. The bad thing is that Europe waited for such a long time. I think that Europe should have started doing that since like 2017 at least. But better late than never, I think. We're getting warnings about a coalition between the US and Russia, possibly for taking Canada off the world map. Nothing is impossible, my friend. I would say, I would say that it's just like rumors or gossips or whatever, unconfirmed information, right? But nothing is impossible, unfortunately, these days. I believe that, in some of the future episodes, we will be exploring the territory of tinfoil heads, which will be extremely funny. I'm always a skeptic, but at the same time, sometimes you have to like step there, just make a small step towards that territory in order to question yourself whether what you believe is right. What do you think about Trump wanting to manage Nord Stream 2? I think that it will be a disaster. It will be an absolute disaster because Russia used the Nord Stream as a political tool of manipulation, of manipulating the European countries. That was, like a drug for Europeans. If you don't believe me, check out what Europe did to help Ukraine between 2014 and 2022, which is basically nothing. Putin and Musk are also narcissists. Did you hear that Musk decided not to enable Starlink over South Africa? It was like in the news recently. Again, I didn't confirm this one, but basically what he said was that South Africa is a country where people commit genocide against white population. So after years of apartheid, I literally I don't know what to say here. Western companies think any deal with Russia is just donating money and equipment to them. Yeah, this is how it looks like. By the way, there is a trial over the top management of Siemens, as far as I remember, because they violated the sanctions, right, against Russia, and they delivered some equipment necessary to produce oil. So it's one of the first cases when like big people are tried in Europe for violating those sanctions, which in my opinion is a good example that it works. Will make a lot of people think before they do something stupid. Best aircraft ever, the Super Gavin. Oh my god, Super Gavin. Best aircraft ever is Kostya. I think I told you that story about my friend. I didn't? I had a friend, Kostya. We studied in the same school, in the same class, and he was like my best buddy. And I remember we were sitting on a porch of a police station drinking beer because it's Ukraine, like early 2000s. Drinking beer. I was there like with my girlfriend back then. I was like 18, 17 maybe. And Kostya was sitting on the roof of the police station, also drinking beer with like the rest of the guys. And I'm sitting there talking with my girl, and those guys are having fun there. And next thing I see is Kostya flying down and he's like upside down. He's like his head is in the bottom, his legs are on the top, and he's like he flies down. I still remember that like in the slow mo, right? I have no idea. And for some reason, I remember that when he was falling down, he was smiling. You know, he had such a surprised smile on his face, and it was like, oh my god. You know it looked like this approximately. Yeah, he was like falling down and smiling for some reason. And when he landed on his head, of course, nothing was damaged. He couldn't damage possibly his brain because he fell on his head. That is the main reason why his brain wasn't damaged. But he broke his finger, and it was the middle finger. Accidental. I've no idea how to fall like that, but he broke his middle finger, and then because when you break like a finger, like somewhere here, they usually what they do, they make a cast and they attach your finger to like your other finger, okay? And he was like walking around school and showing everybody like this, you know, like this cast. So it was kind of funny. Uh, there were a lot of funny stories with Kostya. Remind me if I told you this story already, because like this dude, he was like a living attraction for all kinds of nasty accidents. Literally, we went to this computer club in the night. We were teenagers. We did it sometimes, you know, in the night. We would just reserve a bunch of computers, play Counter-Strike, things like that, you know. And we're sitting there drinking beer, playing games. We're like 15, you know. In Ukraine, you could easily buy beer back then in like early 2000s if you're 15. You don't know what you were missing, guys. So, and the guys are like, you want to go with us? We want to buy more beer. And I'm like, no, I will just sit here. And I keep playing. And the guys walk outside, and then they return, and Kostya has a black eye. And I'm like, what the hell happened to you, Kostya? And he says, so the guys tell me the story. They were standing there in the middle of the night, like 3 a.m., smoking, drinking beer. And actually, there was a big group of guys, like 5 or 6. And they were drinking beer, and then suddenly some dude emerges and walks up to them. And he walks straight to Kostya. There are different guys, but he walks straight to Kostya and he says, why do you have that earring? Are you gay? And he punches him in the eye and walks away. And Kostya was like, usually, like if somebody is getting, you know, his ass kicked, that would be Kostya, definitely. We had a disco, like dances in the school. You know how it always happens. You have like guys kissing the girls like here and there in the dark corners, and generally speaking, when you go to the class, you can see only girls dancing and the guys usually sitting because they're like too shy to dance, or they don't want to look stupid or whatever. That is why, you know, that is why in early 2000s in Ukraine, you would not get laid until you're like 35. And the girls are dancing, the guys are sitting, and like, mahaha, you know. Kostya goes home. And next day, I go to school and I'm like asking the guys, did you see Kostya? And they're like, yeah, there he is. And Kostya runs up to me and he has no front tooth. I'm like, what the hell happened? So Kostya was leaving the school, and as soon as he like he walks out of the door and someone like taps him on the shoulder. He turns around and someone punches him and his tooth flies away. It was so fun. I don't know how I survived, but the times were extremely cool. Those were the times when you would get literally your ass kicked if you were listening to metal and those guys were listening to like electronic music and vice versa. Oh my god. Early 2000s. Crazy days. This war with Russia and Ukraine can be comparable with America and Mexico. Imagine Mexico holding off the American military right at the border. This war is something that reminds me of early years of World War II, big time, when Adolf Eichmann would say that the rights of native Germans are suppressed and things like that. That is literally, I don't know, I think Putin is using his handbook for real. All that propaganda, all those symbols utilized by Russian fascists, that's basically the same. In the US, all us metalheads were feared in the 80s and 90s. In Ukraine, they were mostly hunted and beaten because there were not a lot of guys who could, like, for some reason, when you're a metalhead, it's not like you necessarily go to gym or like attend boxing. I don't know why. Usually it's like if you're a metalhead, you're just like drinking and smoking, which doesn't help you become stronger. It's later in the late 2000s, metalheads realized that, oh, if you want to be feared, you gotta probably go to gym and eat a lot, and train. Back in those days, wasn't the case. Like, we were miserable. We were so miserable. So Witko is on Tucker Carlson and can't even name the occupied territories of Ukraine. Well, we kind of understand what he meant, right? We kind of understand. And we're talking not about 4 regions. He mentioned 4 regions. Actually, there are 5 because he forgot the Crimea. But apparently it's because he already considers Crimea part of Russia. I trust that Ukraine will win and develop its culture even further. Moscovia has been trying to steal Ukraine's culture and identity for hundreds of years, and they failed miserably. That's the facts. Ukraine was occupied by Russian Empire. There's no Russian Empire, but there's Ukraine. Ukraine was occupied by Soviet Union. There's no Soviet Union anymore, but there's Ukraine. And Ukraine is occupied by Russian invaders now. So you probably understand what I'm talking about. The other day, I received a commentary from a person on my channel saying that the funniest thing is when people... it was when I asked you guys to list the biggest misconceptions about Ukraine. And there were a lot of jokers saying that, like basically copy-pasting the same commentary, saying that the biggest misconception is that Ukraine wins the war. So I asked ChatGPT, and you can ask ChatGPT yourself if you're using it. And ChatGPT told me that based on the data available online, Russia is occupying either 10 or 11% of Ukrainian territory right now. In 2022, it was 25%. So the question is Ukraine winning? Russia should hand back the 6 oblasts they still hold from USSR. I agree on that. If we are discussing this from the standpoint of who was there first, then basically Russia should give up a lot of territories, Moscow and Novgorod including, because Moscow and Novgorod regions emerged from Kiev and Rus, and there was no Novgorod Rus, no Moscovian Rus. There was Kievan Rus. It was a big kingdom that gave birth to Muscovia as we know it. ChatGPT told me to kiss my ass goodbye. Really? Where you're like role playing or something? Because generally you can do that with ChatGPT. You can ask ChatGPT to role play as, I don't know, as Elon Musk, for example. That would be the most boring role play you can imagine. I'm kind of flexible. That's cool. That's cool. I can't do that. Trump wants to go to war with our NATO ally Canada, Greenland, and Panama Channel. You know, at this very point, it's not like he definitely wants to go to war, but what we clearly see is that Trump is currently sowing discord with the NATO allies. And those statements that we will make our 51st state, or we can just buy Greenland, you know, or make referenda in Greenland. Looking at what Putin did in Ukraine, that is extremely dangerous, because this man has no respect to international law whatsoever. He has no respect to internationally recognized borders at all. So this is, I'm telling you this as a Ukrainian who saw how the hybrid warfare works, hybrid invasion of Ukraine, and who saw what dictators who have no respect to international law, what they can do. That is extremely dangerous, my friends. Ukraine is losing territory and men. If the war continues, it will get harder to counterattack because you need manpower for that. So, Aaron, there is another big misconception about Ukraine, that Ukraine lost all of its army. Somehow we already heard that, I believe in like May 2022, coming from Douglas McGregor, and then in like autumn 2022, and then in like spring 2023, and then in 24, and we're also losing men in 25. We basically don't have army anymore. So that is a misconception. Ukraine has a big population, approximately 40 million people before the full-scale invasion began. We have approximately an army that is as big as 1 million people right now. And we also have all kinds of brave volunteers coming from other countries to help us fight. And they have opportunity to officially enlist in Ukrainian army, receive Ukrainian citizenship and things like that. So we are not running out of men at all. That is a misconception. Unfortunately, heroes lose their lives. That is true, but so do Russians. And if you take a look at the recent Russian losses that already, by the way, crossed the mark of 900 men, you will probably understand that the correlation between Ukrainians lost during the war and Russians lost during the war is so different. So Russians will most probably need more men that they have physically to completely capture Ukraine. Also, Ukraine keeps producing a lot of drones. We're talking about tens of thousands. And as of 2025 or 26, I don't remember exactly, but our Minister of Defense said that we will have 1.5 million drones, FPV drones, to fight Russian aggressors, which again makes survival of the Russian army on the Ukrainian territory very high, like very, very unlikely. That is why I would not count on the fact that Russia would probably be able to capture Ukraine, because it won't happen. What we see right now is a lot of disinformation about Ukraine. Why do we hear this disinformation in the informational space? It's because Ukrainian army hurts Putin big time. Ukrainian army does not capitulate for 3 years, even though McGregor's, Carlsons were screaming about Ukraine capitulating in like May 2022, and then 2023, and then 2024. Didn't happen. It won't happen, guys. Let's be honest. And international military aid also hurts Putin big time. That is why they create all kinds of myths, including the myth of Ukraine losing all its army and currently recruiting teenagers and women. Soon we will see, I don't know, stray dogs recruited as, I don't know, like suicide bombers or something. However, it's actually Russia who brings donkeys and horses to the front line because they are running out of everything. And speaking of the territory lost, currently Russia occupies, as I said, 10 to 11% of Ukraine. I gotta check the numbers, but generally speaking, Ukraine managed to fight back 50% of the territory that Russia took from it in 2022. Who is losing? With the US fully supporting Ukraine, Russia would have lost with a certainty of 100%. I have absolutely no doubt about this, my friend. Why do people think Putin will use nukes? Because Putin threatens to use the nukes, because he knows that people are afraid of nukes. He knows that he can send an ICBM at Dnipro, for example, and next day Joe Rogan will be screaming about it like a bitch. He knows that it works. This is how nukes work, but nukes don't work by killing people generally. How aft are we? Are we still going? Can we withstand Russia and America? We can, my friend. We definitely can. You know, one thing I know for sure, that if let's imagine, let's step into this territory of tinfoil hats, right? And imagine for a second that Trump makes America cut its ties with European countries, with Australia, and starts trading with Russia, or basically joins BRICS, right? The problem is that United States is a single country. Europe is a fuckload of countries. And all those countries generate profit also through international cooperation and trade. And what's the point of like trading with 5 countries if you can trade like with the whole world? There's no point. But if it happens, unfortunately, United States will lose a lot. And by unfortunately, I mean not just like Trump. Trump doesn't care. He has like his Mar-a-Lago. He has billions of dollars. Musk has more, of course. But anyways, But unfortunately, our American friends will also lose a lot, and it will change their welfare big time. So can Europe withstand without the US? Apparently they can. It will take some time to reposition, to reform their market, but apparently they can. They could withstand something that 3 years ago would seem impossible, is banning the oil import from Russia. That would seem impossible, oil and gas. You couldn't imagine Germans just abandoning Russian gas and oil in like 2021, but today is a reality. So of course it's possible. Also considering the fact that the U.S. also imports a lot of resources. Canada imports 60% of oil and approximately 10% of natural gas to the United States. There will be a lot of challenges, but everything's possible. It's not like countries are self-isolating. Countries will keep trading, countries will keep building their welfare. Um, it's obvious. The Avro Arrow was the best aircraft ever built. Piper Arrow is the best aircraft ever built. You cannot use it for war, but you can fly it like an ace, not ace. Kiev and Rus controlled a large territory, but also nearly, if not all, of Belarus. Yeah, it was huge. Guys, you can check out the map of Kiev and Rus. It was impressive. But again, it doesn't mean that me as a Ukrainian, I believe that, like Belarus belongs to Ukraine, or like Poland belongs to Ukraine. No, we have international recognized borders, and that is something important to remember. We have international law. Canada is going to construct LNG ports. Alexa, that is extremely important because at this point, LNG is probably the biggest resource that is still being imported from Russia to European countries, Belgium, Spain. France, as far as I remember, also imports Russian LNG, and like a small percentage of other European countries. So it would be extremely cool if Canada can do that. Canada can literally become like a monopolist of gas and oil and provide for whole Europe. That would be, by the way, that would be extremely profitable for Canada. I'm saying obvious things here, of course. Yeah, but also countries like Azerbaijan, those are good guys, and they also offer to build like um, a pipeline to European countries. I expected early when this invasion began, I expected that Iran will finally like wake up, and in order to have sanctions raised from Iran, this country would also provide European countries with oil and gas instead of Russian shit. But I was wrong. Instead of that, Iran provided drones to kill Ukrainians. If everybody eats vegan food, they can produce their own gas. No need for import. Bob, actually, you're right, because do you know what's the second largest source of the greenhouse gas on planet Earth? That's literally cows. If we connect all the cows to the same gas pipe, I think that we can provide gas for centuries ahead. You can literally, a herd of cows can literally fill a freaking Zeppelin uh, easily with the gas. Canada needs a fighter with more range than the Gripen. Yeah, Canada is huge. It's world's second largest country. It's impressively big. At the same time, one thing that I still can't believe is Canada, being the world's second largest country, has a not that big population actually, comparing to other countries like Ukraine. But that's cool because you have so much place to travel, wild places where human being has never ever visited. Even that methane does not float a zeppelin. Yeah, it doesn't, but at the same time, it would be really fun. Um, yeah, so I was talking about Canada. It's really cool. The other day I was checking how people fly from Europe to United States or Canada um, on like smaller planes, like Piper Arrow. Usually they fly using like twin engine airplanes for redundancy, but generally speaking, you gotta fly from United Kingdom to uh, Iceland, from Iceland to Greenland, from Greenland to Greenland, from Greenland to Canada, and then from Canada to United States, and it takes like several days, and that is crazy. If you don't have a toilet on board of your aircraft, that may cause a lot of problem. All right, guys, I think we're approaching the end of this stream. We can call it a night because I really want to eat something. And before I finish this one, I want to show you something to torture you. That is a fuckload of sushi that I made. So the coolest thing about this is that the fish, I bought something like 700 gram of fish, of salmon, cost me something like 18 euro. And I made almost 100 euro worth of sushi because you can see there 10 rolls, and I still have 3/4 of fish left in the fridge. So generally, I can make like 60 more rolls, 60 by 60, 30 more rolls. That is literally like 100 euro worth of sushi. And that is why, my dear friends, if you like sushi, you gotta learn how to do it. So if you're hungry, I'm really sorry, but this is the purpose of my channel. All right. Where can I come over for sushi? Anytime when I have them made. Dear friends, I will be finishing this one. Thank you for watching. We will see you later. Please don't forget to check out the link to support Janine. I will be extremely grateful for this. And as always, thank you so much and be safe. Bye-bye.